Time now is 5:32. A call to order the Orange Parish School Board Special Board Meeting for July 18th, 2019. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ashley,
Present.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Ms. Ellison, Mr. Cleben,
Here.
Mr. Koppel,
Present.
Mr. Marshall,
Here.
Ms. Newell-Houston.
Here.
Also present is Dr. Henderson Lewis Jr. and Sharonda Williams, Board Counsel. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Hearing none.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Approval of the minutes from July 27th, public hearing on the general fund budget and the June 27th board meeting. Are there any changes? Hearing none. I have a motion.
So move to adopt the minutes and waive the reading.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We do have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Motion carried. We move right on to the superintendent's agenda.
Can actually acknowledge our translation services.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they didn't have that listed. We have translation services. Would you introduce yourselves, please?
Hola, buenas noches. Me llamo Christopher. Soy aquí para dar servicios de interpretación en español. Voy a estar ahí atrás y si quieres un equipo puedes levantar la mano, por favor.
Okay.
Kính chào toàn thể quý vị, tôi tên là Việt, tôi là thông dịch viên. Nếu quý vị cần thông dịch tiếng Việt, xin cho tôi biết. Tôi sẽ ở cuối. Nếu quý vị cần, sẽ đến với tôi. Cảm ơn.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now we move on to the superintendent's agenda.
Thank you, Board President Brown. Good evening, everyone. As of July 1, we officially completed our first year as a unified school district. And of course, we are the first of its kind in our nation. And we are still an urban school district serving a high-needs student population. And for me as superintendent, our role is very, very unique, given that we have 38 different charter management organizations operating our 78 schools. As we transition to oversee the system, the biggest headline, in fact, may be that there were no headlines, that the transition to a district defined by choice, charter schools, autonomy, and accountability, that this transition was very smoothly. Our school board, this board established our vision, which is our direction, and gave us and defined our 8 goals to work towards. As an administration, we developed our 3-year strategic plan. We've implemented new division to support our charter school system. And our central office team has been transformed and we are aligned. Yet our role in executing this vision is still evolving, as our role is to authorize charter schools and to regulate them. Next, we have also been successful in ensuring that this district is stronger financially. For the first time since Katrina, we presented a balanced budget for the upcoming fiscal year. This eliminates our structural deficit that continually drain our fund balance. We have also put policy in place to protect our fund balance by instituting safeguards as to when and how the fund balance dollars can be used. We also work with our elected officials to make more funding available for the classroom. And lastly, while we continually ensure 98% of every MFP dollar is sent directly to our schools, we also have made sure that those students who are most needy, such as our English language learners, our students with disability, and our incarcerated youth, have dollars fairly and equitably allocated to their specific needs. Additionally, we have boldly managed our portfolio of schools by holding them accountable to higher standards. Leading into unification, we established a new charter school accountability framework. This raised expectations for our schools, resulting in closing 4 failing schools, Nelson, Horny, McDonald 32, and Fisher. But at the same time, we followed through on our commitment to our community by expanding access to high-quality schools with additional campuses at Hines and Audubon Charter Schools. We also sought out to approve the opening of promising schools. We approved Idea Public Schools, a nationally established charter network. And we improved innovation startups such as Rooted, a tech-based, individualized, learning-focused high school. We also adjusted our one-app enrollment system to allow greater access to neighborhood schools for families interested in attending school close to home. And over the past 13 years, as many of you are aware, our schools, but notably our students, have made academic gains, closing the achievement gap and growing faster than their peers statewide. Across all measures, students are performing better now than they were doing a decade ago. Graduation rates are up and beating averages of similar districts in other states, especially for our students of color. We have dramatically reduced the number of students attending failing schools. In 2005, it was 62%. In 2018, it's 18%. We know our schools are outperforming peers statewide on helping students grow faster towards mastering state standards, given that 80% of our schools received an A or B on growth on the state academic progress measure in 2018. In spite of these facts, the district faced a number of challenges that need to be addressed. First, since the state introduced new, tougher standards in 2014, our district performance in K-8 has declined, and our overall achievement has fallen relative to other districts in the state. At the K-8 level, the percent of students achieving mastery or above on English language art decreased by 1%, while math and social studies has remained the same compared to last school year. In high school, the percent of students achieving mastery or above on LEAP 2025 exam in English, algebra, geometry, and U.S. history varied by subject. Overall, the system also saw a decline in the number of students scoring basic or above on LEAP assessment as well. You'll hear more in detail and an update from Amanda Akins, Senior Chief and School Officer, immediately following my report. But the headline is very, very clear. Our students can and should achieve higher, but we must do better. In addition to academic performance, challenge number 2 is teacher attrition. You cannot improve academic performance if you're losing 30% of your teaching staff every single year. We are losing teachers, and recruiting new teachers is becoming harder. There's a national teacher shortage, and New Orleans no longer has the special appeal of rebuilding a city that was a talent magnet after Katrina. Our problem is also compounded by the pay raise voters recently approved for Jefferson Parish teachers. We now have a neighboring school district whose starting salary will be several thousands of dollars higher than our local average of roughly $43,000. Our schools need to do a better job at retaining their teachers. And our city, we need to do a better job at attracting talent. We also face the challenge that bad behavior of a few, it truly hurts the whole. And we've had some bad behavior at several of our schools. At JFK High School, for example, leadership failed to ensure staff were trained and faithfully executed their core responsibilities. You will hear from Amanda Akins in her presentation immediately following my report on the ongoing details of this investigation. Or at Edgar P. Horny, where the board chair overstepped his role as a charter board member. Or at Cypress Academy, where a school leader purely threw their hands in the air in the face of budgetary constraints, deserting families who chose that school for their children. While adult misbehavior happens in school districts across Louisiana and across this country, in New Orleans, these problems undermine our overall system vitality. When a handful of bad actors make poor decisions and when they do not do their job. So since Katrina, we have been defining a new model for public education here in New Orleans that requires innovation and a different way of thinking and approaching problems. We now need to figure out what I call New Orleans Schools 2.0. It goes beyond charter, it goes beyond choice, beyond autonomy, and beyond accountability, as the challenges we face requires a system response as well as a school response. Ultimately, how do we balance charter school autonomy with the role of the superintendent in central office when faced with systematic challenges? Take, for example, our talent challenge. How do we compete with other traditional districts to recruit and retain the best teachers to our city when our system, again, is made up of 38 different employers, would each have their own pay scale, their own benefit packages, and their own cultures? How do we help our schools do a better job at retaining the teachers they have? How do we build a school leader talent pipeline? How do we get our charter board members to do a better job of leading? And how do we get those same board members to do a better job at succession planning? This list is a very short list of a long list of questions that must be answered. And as superintendent, I look forward to the work ahead as we tackle these and other challenges and the work to advance the vision of this district. I'm going to ask Amanda Akins to come forward again in her presentation. She will give an update on academic performance as well as the JFK investigation. Ms. Akins.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent Lewis, and good evening to our board members and all assembled here today. I come to bring forth to you the July accountability presentation. As always, we do like to start off with some highlights. Our team has been busy working very hard this summer to continue to make sure we are supporting our system the best we can. We're excited to continue to announce the work around the innovative school partnerships with the telehealth pilot. So our staff is working with Children's Hospital to provide pediatric services for students with mild conditions through video conferencing technology, something like pink eye, which we know is somewhat popular at times in elementary schools specifically. Telehealth can help students miss less class time as a result of not having to leave school to see their pediatrician, and it's also a lot more helpful to the parents who oftentimes are working. Einstein School, Success Prep, Arise Academy, and Homer Plessy have agreed to participate in the pilot for this upcoming school year. And Children's Hospital is coordinating with these schools to be available back to school events to share information with families. We also continue to work with our schools and building capacity for creating trauma-informed schools. Our staff, alongside of school-based and system-level leaders from several CMOs, participated in an 8-day training this summer, or Train the Trainers course on trauma-sensitive schools. These individuals are preparing to deliver the professional development to their schools this summer, which a lot of that PD is already launched at a lot of our schools, and train throughout the school year as well as next year. And we're also will be having an additional cohort of leaders. And the Trauma Informed Schools Collaborative is leading on this project and supporting schools through their implementation. More to training, because we believe most definitely in supporting people. We are excited to have our OPSB Summer Training Collaborative. The Departments of Exceptional Children's Services and Student Support and Attendance have partnered to offer our schools a training collaborative. These target audiences are social workers, special education staff, counselors, attendance staff, deans, school leaders, disciplinarians, and this will be a 2-day collaborative consisting of training around sessions and keynotes that encourage the dialogue about the unique challenges that our students face and how schools can best offer support and coordination to ensure all students are successful. We are also excited to continue our 2019 attendance awareness campaign. This time of year is actually a really big time for attendance awareness and making sure students reconnect with school after the summer. So in partnership with Baptist Community Ministries, we'll be expanding in the attendance awareness campaign. There's actually an action item to accept the donation from BCM to support the campaign that you will have later on in the board meeting this afternoon. And the campaign will allow us to make sure we're increasing awareness to targeted groups. They will be visible via RTA bus ads and billboards throughout the city. And we will also be partaking in various community events, back to school events, partnering with Nordsee and community groups to spread the word about the importance of daily attendance, but specifically making sure students reconnect after their summer break. Last but certainly not least, and it's actually wasn't on here, it's something we wanted to definitely voice so and celebrate is we received information from KIPP New Orleans with a resolution that they passed around 2 of their schools. And so KIPP Renaissance will actually be assuming back to historic name of Douglas High School, as well as KIPP Booker T. Washington will just now go forward as Booker T. Washington High School. And we applaud this board for making this act and making sure that they're celebrating and acknowledging the history of these schools. Next is the accountability updates. As Superintendent Lewis noticed, I will be starting with the New Beginning School Foundation. So on July 3rd, 2019, the Orleans Parish School Board issued written notification regarding outstanding submission items due to OPSB per the noncompliance level 2 issued on June 7th and follow-up correspondence issued on June 25th. The Orange Parish School Board staff continue to be present daily at Kennedy to oversee summer school activities, and the second wave of summer school has begun, as well as ensuring that there are communications to the families around the status of their students completing their education and planning for ongoing student support, as well as ensuring that the students that are still at the school are set up successful for the upcoming school year. We actually have staff members at their board meeting this evening, and they will be attending staff meetings and parent meetings tomorrow. Our administration also held a meeting with all high school principals and counselors about our expectations around high school accountability, and we'll follow up with a robust set of accountability measures over the coming school year. In addition, we continue to have other level 2 notices of noncompliance. There's the Einstein Charter School, which is a level 2 notice of noncompliance for failure to complete the state standardized testing, which is still open. Encore Academy's notice of noncompliance related to the corrective action plan per SBLC. James Singleton Charter School, notice of level of noncompliance related to special education, as well as a level 2 as related to the corrective action plan from the state per the SBLC, as well as New Beginnings School Foundation, which I just mentioned, their notice of noncompliance, which relates to contractual obligations. These are still our ongoing and open level 2 noncompliance. Next is academic performance. As highlighted, at the K-8 level, the percent of students achieving mastery or above on English language arts decreased by 1%, while math and social studies has remained the same compared to last year. In high school, the percent of students achieving mastery or above on LEAP 2025 exams in English, algebra, geometry, and U.S. history varied by subject. Overall, the system saw a decline in the number of students scoring basic or above on the LEAP assessments. This is the 4th year of stagnant or declining test results. Over the past several years, the city schools have performed well on the State Progress Index measure, and that measure assesses how well schools are helping each student grow towards mastery. Those results will be released by the Louisiana Department of Education later on this summer. And as you see on the graph posted, this is for our grades 3 through 8 and the way students performed on ELA and math, separated by basic and mastery, and then ELA and math together compared to 2018 and 2019. And you can see the change in ELA, 2% change on basic, 1% change on mastery, and math, a 4% change in basic and no change in mastery. And then if you see it combined, we had a 3% change in basic and no change in mastery, which results in this we'll go through this and then I'll show you a chart that shows kind of that decline or stagnation. Also, this is a similar chart that highlights English 1, English 2, algebra, geometry, and U.S. history, and the changes in mastery and basic or above from 2018 to 2019. And as you can see in English 1, you had changes of 6% and 5% respectively. English 2, an increase of 2%. Algebra 1, you had a decline in 3% and 4% respectively. Geometry, 2% and 4% increase. And U.S. history, 3% decline in both mastery and basic. Which leads us to these graphs showing our performance in ELA and math over time, with the top graph being basic and the bottom being mastery of the lines, and just showing again that stagnation and or decline over the last 4 years. Next, our charter school.
I'm sorry, if I could
Yes.
just ask a quick question. Ms. Aiken or Dr. Lewis, I mean, given the now 4 years in a row of either stagnant or declining overall academic performance, can you articulate what the district's strategy is going to be to reverse that trend? And if not, if that's not ready yet, can you tell us when we might expect to see something?
Yeah, so even as I gave the example about the teacher pipeline in my remarks, for example, we have a series of questions that, again, must be answered around academic performance. Again, as we talk about the decline in the retention of teachers, that's a problem. I am glad that we actually have instituted the System-Wide Needs Fund, and so even as we look at the System-Wide Needs Fund, we'll be looking at how to utilize those dollars to actually address some of these challenges here. But then I will also say, as we implemented a new curriculum, this past school year, we had 83% of our schools implemented Tier 1 curriculum that they did not, where other districts, I must say, and schools have been implementing this for the last several years. We do know that anytime you implement a new set of materials and curriculum, that one, there's a lot of teacher training that must take place. OPSB in partnership with NSNO, in addition to purchasing the new materials, we had our teacher leaders to attend teacher hubs along the course of this past school year to be able to, one, understand the depth of what needs to happen in the classroom so that they were able to return back to their schools to train teachers. And we know in the implementation of that, there always will be a period of time where you will see a dip because teachers have to go through training. However, in New Orleans, you have the implementation of a new curriculum and you have new individuals who are coming into the classroom, many of them for their very first time, which also is another set of challenges. So again, we will, over the next several months, be updating the board on our progress to addressing these various issues that will, one, in my mind, get us back on track to the progress that we were able to see in the very beginning of this new reform system here in New Orleans.
Thank you. For charter renewals, again, for renewal communication, for all schools that are up for renewal for the 1920 school year, 100% of schools have ensured that a renewal communication has gone home to families, which is a district letter. For schools that are up for renewal in the 2021 renewal cycle, 89% of schools have completed communicating with families about this renewal. And this was supposed to be a written announcement actually included from the schools home to families, just stating that their schools are up for renewal and letting them know that this is part of our routine process here in our system of choice. Currently, Dr. Peterson and her team have been meeting with schools that are up for renewal for 2019-2020 to provide the schools with a timeline of renewal activities and supporting documentation, and also having one-on-one conversations about renewal and preliminary data. Schools that are up for renewal in the 1920 school year are the schools listed as follows: Andrew H. Wilson Charter School, Foundation Prep, George Washington Carver Collegiate, Joseph A. Craig Charter School, Langston Hughes Charter Academy, Mary D. Coghill Elementary School, and the Net Charter High School, Central City.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In reference to renewals.
Yes, ma'am.
For Friends of King, Craig,
Yes, ma'am.
which is a F school,
Yes.
why are we renewing their charter?
No, ma'am, these are the schools that we're going to be reviewing to whether.
Reviewing.
Reviewing. It's
Okay.
just their renewal year, so we use
Gotcha.
that term as it's the review.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
And for 2021, 2020 and 2021, there are a lot of schools up for renewal next year. Arthur Ashe.
I think you should say review for renewal. Yes. Thank
There
you.
are several schools that are up for review for renewal, which is Arthur Ashe Charter School, Ben Franklin High School, Lawrence D. Crocker College Prep, Homer Plessy Community School, Kip Believe College Prep, Kip Booker T. Washington High School, Kip Central City, Kip Morial, Lake Forest Charter, Livingston Collegiate, Lusher Charter School, Mildred Osborne Charter School, Morris Jeff Community School, Paul Havens Elementary School, Phyllis Wheatley Community School, Pierre Capto Learning Academy, Renew Schaumburg Elementary School, and Renew Sci-Tech Academy, as well as Moton Charter School. And this concludes my presentation. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question, and it may be best for the superintendent. You mentioned earlier that the loss of teachers in our district, in your mind, has played a major part in the lack of progress by schools. How soon can you report to us some strategies? I'm sure that you're going to have to meet with a number of the charter schools and the CMOs to collaborate with them as to how we can address this issue. How soon do you think you can come back to this board and let us know what the strategies might be, what things we can do as a board to try to rectify this situation?
Yes, even at our committee meetings next month, what we will do is also provide you all with an update on where we are and the steps that we're taking to address this problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent and your administration. We have other presentations from the administration. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I am Suchitra Sapathi of Rodell Parsons and my colleague Rodney Braxton of Southern Strategies, and we're here to present the 2019 legislative overview. Very briefly, the 2019 legislative session convened in April. It was a fiscal session and ended June the 6th. There were 620 House bills filed, 243 Senate bills, 32 constitutional amendments, and 872 resolutions and study requests. This resulted in your team tracking and working over 100 pieces of specific legislation on behalf of the Orleans Parish School Board. We truly appreciate the hardworking team at OPSB and all of the help and partnership we received from education advocates, organizations, and school leaders. The next slide shows your 10 approved legislative priorities to which the 100 pieces of legislation largely fit within.
Good evening, Board. Just quickly, obviously we were watching the finances, and just a quick recap, the legislature approved $3.8 billion for next fiscal year for the MFP, and it was adopted via SCR 3 that was authored by Senator Blade Morrish. That included a $1,000 pay raise for all certificated personnel, including classroom teachers, and a $500 pay raise for non-certificate support personnel, and an additional $38.9 million associated with a 1.375% increase in base per pupil amount, which is the first time that's occurred since 2015. There was some significant increases in funding for early childhood education. There was an $18 million increase in early childhood education, not happening in almost 10 years. And that new state funding was for children birth through 3. There was new state funding for the current level for pre-K program for 4-year-olds, and approximately $4 million for 800 pre-K seats for 4-year-olds to replace some federal funding that was lost. I know you were all aware of the Harris legislation that went through the process, and part of that there was a provision that if Harris brings in more than $60 million a year, $3.6 million going forward would go towards funding early childhood education moving forward. So as that development comes online, there is the possibility down the road to get additional money for early childhood education going down, moving forward. Representative Abramson also passed House Bill 560, which provided for an excise tax on CBD oil, which, if everybody been paying attention, medical marijuana, CBD oil, those things have been in the news a lot and will be used a lot, and there could be a chance for some funding for early childhood education to come out of that. He passed HB 560 that levies a 3% sales tax on the sale of CBD, so that those proceeds would go to early childhood as well.
OPSB will also benefit from the passage of House Bill 393 by Representative Leger, which will allow the district to better prioritize the $10 million in existing local sales tax dollars. It provides the additional $100 per pupil to all schools, allocates about $2 to $2.5 million annually to support special programming, managing the new system-wide need fund while maintaining facility preservation funding at the level anticipated since 2014, about $35 million a year. Also, House Bill 493 by Representative Abramson also authorizes the City of New Orleans to establish a homestead exemption audit program, which would now allow for properties where there may be duly claimed homestead exemptions to be vetted out and properties placed properly on the tax rolls. That, of course, having the effect of increasing proceeds to tax recipient bodies, including OPSB. In addition, the voucher program was appropriated for $42 million for the 2019-2020 school year, $20 million for early childhood care and education. TOPS was fully funded at $311 million. Senate Bill 243, creating the Dual Enrollment Framework Task Force to make recommendations regarding the universal access to dual enrollment, and House Bill 53, which clarifies the law on suicide prevention, requiring the governing authorities of public schools to allow for the printed information on cards, the phone numbers for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Now, briefly for the future, to remind you, Louisiana has elections this fall, the primary being October the 12th, with the general election in November. Louisiana will elect 7 statewide office holders: the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, state treasurer, attorney general, commissioner of insurance, commissioner of agriculture. Louisiana legislators serve 4-year terms. They begin on noon on the second Monday in January in 2020. Although Louisiana implemented term limits in 2007, the fall elections will represent the largest turnover since that time. 49 legislators in total are term limited and ineligible to run. That would be 16 senators and 33 House members. Qualifying is August the 6th through the 8th. It's been our pleasure to work with the Orleans Parish School Board and your administrative staff, school leaders, organizations, and everyone on advancing your agenda. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from board members?
No, I just want to say, as legal legislative chair, thank you. You guys have done a phenomenal job this year of allocating your resources with our aligned goals as a board. And the work that you guys have done, I mean, I can't say it enough. Thank you to your staff. Thank you for working tirelessly with our board, taking our calls. You know, this is a big win for young people, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Next report would be capital projects.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Lewis. Happy to present the July capital projects report to everybody. We have 5 major capital projects ongoing in the district currently. Going to present some high-level highlights on each. At Sci High, we're currently on time and under budget. The last structural beams are currently under place, mechanical ductwork is being installed, and interior framing is underway. At McMain High School, we're also on time and at budget. The exterior painting project is complete, and if you haven't driven by, I hope you do. It looks beautiful. The punch list is currently underway, and the lawn modifications have begun this month. At Hines, Phase 1 is complete, and the contracts have been fully executed for Phase 2 and will begin shortly. At Ben Franklin Elementary, we're at budget, and even with a very aggressive construction schedule, currently on schedule. Phase 2 has begun, floor finishings and painting is underway. We're currently installing the air conditioning systems as well. Carr High School, being financed by OPSB but managed by RSD, is currently on time and under budget. Quick update on where we are with our DBE participation. Since 2018, we have approximately 35% participation on 10 construction projects, valuing at over $14.5 million. This slide provides a project-by-project breakdown of DBE participation value and the number of vendors participating in each project. This slide is an overview of our FEMA program, showing the reimbursements and payments made to date and the remaining total left of our FEMA program. This, again, is an overall project summary of those 5 major capital construction projects in our portfolio, an overview of budget, which for each budget we are either at budget or under budget, and as well as a construction timeline. We're going to go into a little bit more detail of each project. At Ben Franklin Elementary, we again are working with an aggressive construction schedule to have this refurbishment complete by the start of the school year. We met today with Ben Franklin Elementary and we'll be meeting with them each week until we finalize the project. Currently, the first day of school is August 19th. At Hines, again, Phase 1 is complete, and we finalized the contracts for Phase 2. The major portion of this work is completing and reinstalling the gym floor at Hines Elementary. At McMain High School, the majority of this project is complete. The painting is completed, but we're really just finishing up the lawn project, and again, will be complete by the start of school year. At Sci High, new construction project. The structural components of this facility are in place, and we're putting together the interior work and making good progress on that project, and anticipating move-in in the spring and summer of 2021. The next 2 slides provide an overview of additional smaller capital projects being managed by OPSB facility staff. This includes projects being managed at the school level and also projects for this facility.
Ms. Delcor, if I could
Yes.
ask real quick, I just couldn't help but notice the addition of an elevator at the Sylvania Williams facility. Can you just share a little bit more about why that
Yes.
decision was made?
Yes, we're installing an elevator at Sylvania Williams. That project won't happen until summer 2020. That project is being done to fall within ADA compliance for that facility, as we're trying to make sure that all of our facilities are meeting that compliance standard as we move forward with the preservation program.
Are there other buildings that need elevators?
Many.
And are they occupied?
Some are, some aren't, and we're working on that. You will see later in our agenda another building that we're also moving forward with installing an elevator that doesn't currently exist.
Okay. I'm just curious because I don't believe that facility meets the minimum building specifications that have been shared with the board. So I'm just curious why we would prioritize that facility, which may not be a long-term school facility, versus others that might have a long-term future as a school.
I'll check that, but according to our facilities unified plan, I do think it meets those standards, but happy to review that with you and share that with you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. In the second slide of additional projects, you will see Ben Franklin Elementary mentioned a few times. I want to highlight that that is because these are non-FEMA funded projects. So in addition to the FEMA funded refurbishment that is happening at Ben Franklin, we're doing additional projects there as well. The next few last slides are about RSD's programs in our portfolio of facilities. This is DBE participation for RSD. They're currently right under 29% DBE participation, though their goal is 25%. Carr High School, again, an OPSB financed project being managed by RSD, is currently under budget and on time with a planned move in summer 2020. Booker T. Washington was recently completed and handed over to KIP, and we're all very excited for the first day of school in this facility in the next 2 weeks. Last slide is additional projects being managed by RSD within our portfolio. And I'm happy to take any questions, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. 4.4 is the May 2019 budget to actuals. I'd like to introduce Diane Allison, who's our new CFO. Diane?
Good evening, Superintendent Lewis and board members. And I just wanted to let you know I am a proud Orleans Parish Public School graduate. And it's my pleasure to present this financial statements to you. Overall, there were no substantial changes from what was reported in the prior month. On the general fund balance sheet, we have total assets of just under 60 million, liabilities of just under 3 million, for a total fund balance of 57 million. On the income statement, we project total revenues for the year of 46 million and total expenditures of 44.7 million for a projected surplus of 1.3 million. This surplus does include fund balance the board already allocated for 18-19. As Eric has previously noted, any surplus at the end of the year following the audit will return to the general fund balance. The school projections are similar to last month, with Cypress having a projected deficit of 704,000, McDonough 35 with a projected deficit of 46,300, and Harney with a projected surplus of just over 500,000. All deficits and surpluses do include fund balance amounts previously reported to the board, approved by the board. This concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you. 4.5 is the new website presentation. That'll be the last one.
All right, so good evening, board members. Superintendent Lewis. So as Superintendent said, I'm just here to give an update on a big project here at the district. So you likely noticed that our presentations tonight are a little bit brighter in color. So yesterday evening, we launched a new user-friendly website with our new administrative name, our new logo, and a new look. So we're proud to present a school district with not only the clean look, but also a clear focus on our work and our vision. So local control has significantly broadened OPSB's responsibility, and we needed to ensure transparency of information and also accessibility of information for every stakeholder. And this website goes a long way to doing just that. For example, it can of course be translated into different languages. It can be read aloud. The content can be read aloud to the user. The font size can be adjusted comfortably for the user. It is also mobile device friendly. So the most popular attributes of the site are front and center on the homepage for easy finding. And as you can see, our new website design reflects that, and it is focused on three main groups: families, schools, and the community. The new website is, of course, a direct response to feedback that we've received from the community. Our last website was initially built about a decade ago and was no longer meeting our needs. But I do want to note, for those of you who might be wondering, that our old website will still be available via a link on the new site. So we have a lot to celebrate in our schools, namely our students. This site features positive images of our students across the city to inspire, of course, this positivity and pride in our city and pride in our public schools. So we urge you to visit our new site today. Is anyone on their phones? I was hoping you would all be on their phone. There you go. So in addition to our new website, we have updated our look. And as I've said before, a clean look, a clear focus on our vision. So here's our new logo. You can see our new school administrative name, which is NOLA Public Schools. The bright and approachable logo symbolizes the city of New Orleans coming together harmoniously for a stronger and forward-thinking New Orleans. The overlapping colorful letters create a dynamic visual, which we think represents the cohesive unification of the neighborhood and schools in our city. So we appreciate the input of our stakeholders along the way. This name was selected by parents, students, community members to honor the city and the school, and that the school district serves. We had focus groups with stakeholders, and this name this effort represents our 78 public schools that work on behalf of every child every day, and the central office staff who do the same. We've also updated our name on social media, and we hope that you'll continue to engage with us there. What I do want to stress, however, is that the Orleans Parish School Board is still at work, and their indispensable role is not changing. OPSB is and will remain the name for our 7 elected board members and that our administration and the superintendent report to. They're our legal entity, and they manage the direction and decisions of this district. So that name and that government seal, that logo, will all remain the same for official board business. This is the brand and the logo for the administration. So this was all made possible through our work with the Spears Group. So I'm asking for the Spears team, if they're here, if they could stand. There you go, and be recognized. So we appreciate their partnership. So thank you all. So they spent countless hours working with and engaging our families, students, and community to get us to this point. And in addition to significant public engagement, they designed and built the website logo and the new look. So thank you to the Spears Group. So thank you. So please know, of course, we'll continue to work to refine this website over time to meet the needs of our community. You know, I don't think there's any good website out there that's ever done. So we'll continue to make this better as we move forward to advance the vision and mission of this district. So thank you all. Yeah, any questions?
Yes. So first, I would like to say I think the website is phenomenal. I love the look, and thank you to the Spears Group. Again, a round of applause and hats off for your design. I love it. But I do have one question in reference to, you mentioned the old site. When you're searching on the website or on the internet, will the old site pop up and the new site pop up, which could cause some confusion with a person that's perhaps not as savvy or may not even know that we have a new website? That's one question.
Got it.
The second question is, when will the old site be pulled down?
Yeah, good question. So thank you for the invitation to clarify. So if you type in opsb.us right now, you'll be immediately redirected to this new site. So you can't link directly to the old site anymore, but if you go to the new site, the link will be there to the old site.
So my other question is, why is the old site there? Is there a reason?
So if you dig through some of the departments, I mean, Dr. Guidry's here from special ed. She can tell you she's got a set of things on there from years ago. I'll just say that. So I know that some folks have come to count on some of the things that are on there, and certainly we're working to make sure that our current website is streamlined and has all the information that families need. But it has, we believe it has. The old website has more things than we think are most helpful than the streamlined website that our public is asking for now.
So why can't we move what's on the old site onto the new site to make it more user-friendly and available for those that you said will need that additional information?
Yes, in the interim, as we're transitioning to the new site, and as Mary mentioned, some of our schools and even central office personnel, there are different things that's on the old website that some will transition, but we are transitioning, and so we wanted to bring up the new website, but as we continue, the work still has to go on, and the old website allowed that to happen. And so again, as Mary mentioned, you would have to specifically go to the website, but it's to make sure as we prepare for the opening of school, those things that schools have access as we're transitioning and now the new website is live, that there is not a loss in getting work done. And so over time, the old website will, in my
Go
mind,
away.
be
Okay.
going- go
we
away.
we don't have the date for that yet, but as superintendent said, it'll be over time.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
I have a question. The search button on the new site, when I first went on, it was very large and prominent, and I went right to it, found the information I wanted, worked perfectly. But then I got out, got back on, and I got a different page. I don't know what happened, or I did something. But the search button was very small in the upper right corner, and it really didn't have a search bar. It just had the little magnifying glass that you click on to produce the search button. I'm thinking that if the search button was always, the bar was always prominent, that would help. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that you wouldn't overlook it. It would always be there. The next question I want to ask is, in searching, using that tool, if you have information on the old site and you request that information through the search button, will you get that information? Will it pull up the old information from the old site? No. Okay, I see you're shaking your head.
You have to click to the
Not
old
at the,
site.
okay,
Yeah.
you have to click to the old site. All right, thank you.
Great.
I do have one, I think, final question. When you type in the search engine and you put OPSB, you have other sites that pop up, other school board sites that pop up from other parishes versus the Orleans Parish School Board. You have to put in that US. But if I'm the general public and I'm just putting in OPSB, I would expect just that site to pop up. But you actually have to go to like the second or third page of the search engine before it actually shows on the screen. So I don't know how we can make sure that if the general public is typing in OPSB, that it actually pops up in that first page versus.
Because it goes like Washita Parish.
Correct,
and
yes, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
I know that there are ways to do that. I don't know what those ways are, but we can find out. Yeah. Great. Great. Thank you all.
One last thing.
Yeah.
Are we going to move and do some sort of branding, advertising around NOLA Public Schools? And will that become the new way of researching us at NOLA Public Schools as opposed to opsb.us?
They'll both work, but yes.
They will both work. Either one will work. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And I would like to just thank the entire board for pushing us. And again, this has been a long time coming. And specifically, I want to also thank Board Member Ashley and Board Member Cleveland for also, in my mind, leading the effort as we are able to get to where we are also with this website. And in closing, to the Spirits Group in Cleveland himself, we really thank you for working with us, the many meetings, the many back and forth, and I must say we're in a great place, and now I can truly say that we have a website that is for our students and families in our community. So thank you again. And Board President Brown, this concludes our presentation for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and to your staff for the work that they have completed for this meeting. Thank you, and thank you all for your work. Moving on to action items, I yield to the Board Council.
Action item 5.1, Lafayette Elementary and Recovery School District CEA. The Orleans Parish School Board authorizes its administration to negotiate a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Orleans Parish School Board and the Recovery School District to allow for facility improvements to Lafayette Elementary School, and authorizes General Counsel to prepare the agreement for party signatures.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Ms. Delcor, I've been very clear on, I'm all for getting money out the door to fix buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little confused as to how the asbestos, what was originally an asbestos abatement, turned into this longer list of other things that may not be as high priority. If you just kind of give us a little more background on how this list got put together.
Sure. Happy to go through the rationale. In the fall, the RSD will begin the remaining construction project of the Lafayette Elementary Refurbishment Project, which was stalled and delayed because of the asbestos major release that occurred last summer. However, the RSD scope of work for this project does not include the replacement of major pieces of equipment that are beyond their useful life, or the renovation of all parts of the facility, including those parts of the facility that were unaffected by the asbestos release. This action item proposes us to enter into a CEA where OPSB agrees to finance an expansion of RSD's ongoing scope of work. In addition, OPSB's financed construction would focus on replacing those outdated systems and add meaningful upgrades, such as replacing the chiller and the boiler system, upgrading the electrical wiring, such as the distribution system and the circuits, upgrading the plumbing system, the addition of a fire suppression system, the addition of an elevator, all of which would be funded by the Facility Preservation Program. However, this construction would also ensure the third floor receives the similar upgrades as all other floors. And this might get to your question, Board Member Kleben. The asbestos abatement project that the RSD is nearly completing, will be completed at the end of July. As part of that project, they had to demolish and pull out certain parts of the facility as part of that cleanup. That occurred on the first and second floor. So part of the putback or the reconstruction of those pieces include renovation or updated construction of those areas in the first and second floor. This additional scope that's not related to upgrades of outdated pieces of equipment would make sure that there is some continuity in the experience you have in the building. So the RSD scope of work is renovating the bathrooms on the first and second floor. We're proposing that our scope of work would also ensure the bathrooms on the third floor are equally renovated, so that if you are a student, you experience the same level of renovation regardless of where you are in the facility. Those pieces of renovation that would be held to the third floor, those would be paid with capital projects other. So you'll notice that the budget source is split between facility preservation program and capital projects other.
Got it. So, but in some form or fashion, it is, all of this work is related to the original cause of the problem or the original project purpose of asbestos abatement, is what you're saying?
Not all of it.
Well, I mean, indirectly maybe, but in order to create the uniform experience, I'm just saying the only reason that was all happening is because of the asbestos abatement. It's not just an add-on.
Or the work on the third floor, yes.
Yeah, the work on the, I got it. All right, thank you.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second.
We have one comment card, Dr. Ken Ducote.
Ken Ducote, Executive Director of GNO Collaborative Charter Schools, 2401 West Bend Parkway, Suite 3040. It's certainly prudent to do all these repairs at the same time. The schools have been disrupted by all of the different work and by the asbestos problem. So it is consistent with the use of the preservation funds, and it is certainly consistent with good planning, especially for schools, to get all of this stuff out at once if you can. But what this project does do is it does remind us of a couple things. The first thing is that the preservation program is meant to preserve buildings and not to restore or refurbish them. And so consequently, we need to continue working on that long-range facility plan that was deferred until later in the fall. And we need to come up with how that's going to be implemented and schedule and scope of the work and so on. And the second thing is, in January, the school district administration did a good job of presenting what was the status of the use of all of the preservation fund money. And we need to make sure that we keep up that good effort so that we continue to have transparency and so that everybody understands completely the necessity and the prudence of the work that is being done. Thank you.
Okay. That's it? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Action item 5.2, it's an amendment to the CEA with Recovery School District regarding Thurgood Marshall. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board amends the previously executed CEA with the Recovery School District for improvements to Thurgood Marshall facility up to $350,000 for additional cost incurred during the construction project.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second.
We have one comment card, Michael Jones.
One card. Yes.
Good evening to you all. I'm Dr. Michael Jones. I'm a cardiologist in town. I'm the father of Leah, Michael, and Kyla Jones. We live here in Algiers, and for some odd reason, my children cannot get schools in Algiers. My kids are sent all the way over to the Encore School off Florida Avenue and then to the Math and Science High. As we're talking about these schools that are having all of these things done to these schools, I think something that's very obvious to me as a physician and as an activist. I march with CATA and other groups to bring awareness to how our communities are being poisoned. And I am flabbergasted to hear that we would dare put our children back in the asbestos school. The school seemingly, to me, should be pushed down. He should build a new school, but not on a site where asbestos is. Now, all of that to say, I would expect that my 3 children should be able to go to school within driving distance for their father. I am the sole provider for my kids, and my office is within 2 miles of my home. My kids have to pass the, I'm sorry, I'm messing up on the school, Alice Hart, have to pass Alice Hart to come to my office where they come to hang out after school and play. I do not understand why I have to drive across a bridge, risk harm to myself and to my children, and experience the cost associated with that because I cannot get my kids in a school that's within 1 mile of my home. And I certainly do not wish to have them sent to a school with asbestos.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's Havens, and this has nothing to do with the topic, number one.
Understood. Sorry.
Okay. So, but there are several schools on the West Bank, and we have discussed this with staff members. And I don't know, you reference Alice Hart, but there's also Havens. There's also Tupman and Eisenhower. There are several schools on the West Bank that your kids could attend.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so I don't know if you would like to, I would suggest, and even as I suggested to you last month, to meet with one of the staff members to talk about getting your child or enrolling your kids in a school on the West Bank. I don't know what your selections were on the one application, but again, this is, I'm taking some personal privilege, but this is off topic. So I'm gonna ask that one of the staff members meet with you again after this conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
The unfortunate reality is there are no schools substantial in terms of their scores. There are no A and B schools on this side of the river except ISL and Alice Hart. Again, your system, which to me, unfortunately, as a physician, I understand systems, okay? That's what I do. I have to understand systems. I don't understand the system here. I truly don't, and I'm trying my best to, because my children deserve an education, as every child in America deserves an education. The charter school system, which is why I put this under the recovery school district thing, does not give us that. What it gives us is a circumstance where public dollars are taken and put in the hands of private entities, and that money never returns to us. I pay taxes. I should have my kids taught in a school close to me. I should not have to drive across 2 bridges to get my kids to school. I should not have to wake up at 5 a.m. to get my kids together so that I can put them on a bus so that they can perhaps have a trouble crossing the bridge in the bus, as I explained to Mr. Dunn about things I've seen and heard. I've had to take 5 kids who are not my kids from Algiers all the way over to the Math and Science High because the school bus did not show up on 4 or 5 occasions. I had to call the school and ask, why is my daughter being dropped a full mile from my home when she's dropped by the school bus? I was told by the Math and Science people, oh, that the government says. The government doesn't say you have to do that. The government says you can do that. But no reasonable principal or CEO should say, I'm going to allow the individuals, the companies that I contract to take my students home, to drop them a full mile from their home. The predators know where the kids are dropped, okay? So if my daughter is dropped a full mile from home and I can't rush to get her, and she's got to walk home a full mile, how long before not only my daughter, but someone else's daughter or son is handled in a poor way? I'm trying my best. I went to late enrollment. I put my kids in the one app. With all of your choices, I should not have to choose a I should not have to choose a C or worse school. I should definitely not have to choose an F school, okay? And I should be able to have my kids educated in my neighborhood. Figure it out somehow. Help me out, because I really would like to see this done better.
Okay. We hear your concern, but before you leave the mic, please state your address. We did not get that.
2433 Bedford Drive, right here.
Okay.
Okay, Packingham Estates. My office is at 5163 General de Gaulle, Suite E, cardiology, and weight loss. So if any of you need me, I have cards.
Thank you.
Quick announcement.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask again that staff will get with them. I know that we're doing late enrollment. Again, it is still not too late, and it is not the end of the road. We do have schools that are on the West Bank that are phenomenal schools for our students. And yes, we do have some schools that do need improvements, but I believe that our school leaders, along with our educators, are doing their very best to bring our schools up and making great strides within our school district. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second.
Any more cards?
None.
We have none. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries.
Item 5.3, resolution number 10-19. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board adopts resolution 10-19, approving the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire as part of the state legislative auditor's requirement for completion of audits, authorizing the board president to execute any and all relevant documents, and authorizing the administration to submit the questionnaire as required by the legislative auditor. And I'll note the attachment to the audit response that's included includes a typo of Mr. Ashley's name that will need to be edited before submission.
Okay.
So move with the waiving of the reading of the resolution along with the correction.
We have a motion and a second. Any cards on this?
None on this one.
No cards? Yield to the staff. Roll call?
Mr. Ashley,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Ellison, Mr. Cleveland, Mr. Koppel, Mr. Marshall,
Yes.
Ms. New Houston.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Next, item 5.4, it's the Fourth Amendment to third-party contracts to provide Title I supplemental educational services. It's recommended that the administration recommends that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the fourth set of amendments to the following contracts for Title I educational services. This will increase each contract as follows. Catapult Learning LLC from $8,116,275.89 to $8,210,809.27 for an increase of $94,533.38. To Non-Public Educational Services, Inc. from $265,651.98 to $266,118.50 for an increase of $466.52. To Sylvan Learning from $350,107.65 to $365,926.83 for an increase of $15,819.18. Based on the 2018-19 Title I allocation and supplemental rollover funds from $2,295,400 to $2,406,219.08 for an overall increase of $110,819.08 for eligible non-public school students.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any cards? No cards on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, 5.4 passes.
Next item is item 5.5. It's another Fourth Amendment to third-party contracts to provide Title II supplemental educational services. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve the Fourth Amendment to Catapult Learning LLC contract for Title II supplemental educational services to increase the total contract amount from $1,317,550.98 to $1,341,063.01 for an increase of $23,512.03 based on the 2018-19 Title II allocation and supplemental rollover funds of $229,576.03 for professional development services to administrators and staff in non-public schools.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
No cards.
No cards. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries.
Next, item 5.6, acceptance of a donation from McDonough 35 Alumni Association. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accepts a donation in the amount of $500 from the McDonough 35 Alumni Association.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
And we have two cards, Wanda Romaine, followed by Lona Hankins.
Good evening, Wanda Romaine, 70131. As I did not see this on the agenda at first, I'm going to make a simple comment that I am I hope that the teachers appreciate whatever this donation was intended to do. Because what I think they would have appreciated more is to have been secure in their jobs. But as I know there are a number of proud Ron Eagles in this room, and I am being watched, I will simply say that congratulations. I guess you're working on a better relationship with the association, but know that you will be watched with everything you do, you say, and I hope you just appreciate our teachers more this coming school year and the other years to come.
Next, Lona Hankins.
Lona Edwards Hankins, 3704 Magazine Street. As you move to appreciate the teachers at MAC 35 and you talked about teacher retention, I have a suggestion, particularly since we are now 100% charters. Charters are nimble, they act more like the private sector. I think you should work with your schools to understand their contracting and perhaps eliminate teacher contracts. It is my understanding, particularly at the school where my kids go to, the contracts are on an annual basis and they aren't renewed until late in the year. So that is April, May timeframe. And so teachers, right, they got responsibilities. And if they don't know that they have a job from one year to the next, that's gonna cause them to jump for job security, particularly when the parish down the street is paying more money. In the private sector, most people are hired and they have a job until they don't perform. And then there are things that are put in place before they lose their job. There's corrective actions. If it's a budget issue, they know well in advance, most times, so that they can make preparations. I just urge you to treat teachers like professionals.
I have a question for
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Ms. So when you say that the charter should advise the teachers or do the contracts earlier,
I'm saying eliminate one-year contracts. If you are hired as a teacher, you got a job until you don't perform.
so you're saying that you don't have a contract at all?
Correct.
Okay, and
Treat
you
them like
just
professionals.
Treat them just like employees, and through an employer relationship, if there's something that happens during that particular time or season, then you release them or you do whatever corrective actions that's needed.
Exactly.
Okay,
And
I
put,
just want
put
to
rules
get.
in the handbook, agree to the rules up front, work with the community, establish the rules, follow the rules, treat them like professionals.
So let me ask you this question, because I know you've given some thought to it, so that's why I'm asking. So on the flip side, if, say for instance, there are some professional industries that they do hire their employees from year to year, and they're contractual employees, how do you foresee that? I know that there are, so they are being handled as professionals, and they're contractual from year to year. What do you see as a problem with hiring an employee from year to year? And I'm not trying to put you in a trick bag or anything like that. I'm trying to I'm asking a legitimate question.
So in my experience in the private sector, when you're hired as a contractor, it's project related, right?
Okay.
So you are hired to do a task. When that task ends, the money runs out, you leave. I am not aware of a position that is on an annual basis that you need, that is part of your recurring budget, that is on an annual contract.
Okay.
It is when you have one-time money, then you hire an entity for that. If you are going to do what you're suggesting, then I would suggest that teachers know in January. From
Okay.
January to January.
From
Not-
July to July.
You figure that out. But they need to know well in advance whether or not they're going to have a job, because they got bills, they have lives, they have children to feed.
So let me ask you this question. So do you have any factual, not what you think, but factual, of when do the charter schools notify the teachers that their contract is not going to be extended?
I don't have any factual information. I
Okay.
just know when my children's school was having a union issue, it was April, May timeframe, and teachers did not know if they were having a job the next year.
Okay, and I also want to correct you on something you said in reference to, I do, and I personally know of professionals that are hired for a year based upon contractual services for businesses. So that is something that you may not be aware of it, but there are companies that do hire employees from year to year, and they are contractual employees.
Yeah, I said I was aware of it, but it was based on the funding source.
No, that's why I'm correcting you. It's not based upon funding sources. So I just wanted to, because you're making a public statement, I just wanted to make that correction that
And
there
I'm telling
are-
you my knowledge
Correct.
base, the people that I am aware of that are hired on contracts, that are not on an annual basis,
Gotcha.
are on a project budgetary based on the funding source.
Gotcha.
That is my knowledge.
That's your knowledge.
That's right.
Okay, so that's why I was asking you to be specific in reference to factual information, but that's why I made the correction. But I think that's something, the points that you did make, I think those are valid points that you're making, and we'll look at what you're saying. I think those are great points. Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent, thank you.
Yes, Board President Brown, and I would like to say, as Ms. Hankin was just talking about the teacher shortage and the retention of teachers, yes, that is a problem, but there's a few things I want to just share this evening. The first thing, I spent the first 9 years of my career in St. Bernard Parish as a teacher. I can recall every spring semester, maybe around March, maybe April, there was a form that was sent out which was called the intent to return, which stated that I was planning on returning, I was not returning because I was retiring, I was going to resign, or was undecided. I would say by the end of the school year, in the month of March, is when I signed my contract in St. Bernard annually for those 9 years. Also, I'd like to share, I believe in 2012, Act 1 passed, which actually dealt with teacher tenure. Teachers across the state of Louisiana, if you had received tenure by, I believe, 2012, you actually were grandfathered in, if you would. And then anyone that was moving into a district, no matter if you had 15, 20, or 30 years, when you move into the district, you were starting the process over. And the way that you get tenure in the state of Louisiana, correct me if I'm wrong, is 3 years of being rated as highly effective. And so, again, I do know that we have a serious challenge that we have to address and get and retain our teachers in the classroom. But I also want to just mention that in traditional district, contracts are given at the end of the year. My entire 9 years was in the month of May, but I agree with you, Ms. Hankins, that we have to address this problem and come up with solutions so that our school district can continue to improve.
Thank you. Any other cards? No other cards. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries.
Item 5.7, an acceptance of a donation from Children's Hospital. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accept a $500 donation from Children's Hospital.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any cards? No cards. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, 5.7, I believe, carries.
It's item 5.8, acceptance of a donation from Baptist Community Ministries. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accept a donation of $65,129 from Baptist Community Ministries.
So moved.
Motion and a second.
I have one card, Lona Hankins.
Okay.
So as you receive this donation to raise awareness about attendance, I urge you to seek a donation to help understand whether or not your current renewals, your current expansion and merger policies are effective based on your school results that you have gotten. You've been stagnant since 2013, and charters should not be allowed to grow unless their CMOs are at least a B or higher. Allowing a C to expand or merge or combine puts stress on the system. And we are living with mediocrity, and that's just not acceptable any longer. Additionally, I think when you do your renewals and you're doing renewals based on growth and not school performance scores, that you should not renew beyond a 1 year, because we've seen growth scores go up 1 year and go down the next year. We've seen that. So by you doing a 3 to 5 year renewal for that charter, it jeopardizes. That means the child will stay their entire life in a D school or lower. And something's wrong with the renewal process, because there's no way you renew Kennedy in the year that you just renewed it, and now you're talking about taking it back. There's a problem with that.
Okay. Any other cards? No other cards. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none. Move to 5.9.
5.9 is an acceptance of a donation from Opportunity Youth Forum. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accept a grant in the amount of $10,000 from the Opportunity Youth Forum.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
We have one comment card, Lona Hankins.
So again, as you're talking about expansion of opportunities for youth and receiving this opportunity grant, I am asking you to strongly look at where your data points are. You continue to compare yourself to 2005, yet there's not a child in the system today that was in the system in 2005. My child is a senior this year. He started the school district in 2007. His entire school experience has been in this charter reform system, yet only 35% of his peers in high school are reading and performing English 1 and 2 at grade level. Additionally, only 30% are performing at math. And in a city that is known for history, only 21% can do US history on grade level. And if you guys don't see that as a crisis in this system, that is a problem. Y'all talked about scores earlier today, just like, 1 point drop, no big deal. I was offended by that as a parent and a citizen of this system. Additionally, I strongly urge you to go back and look at the 4th grade scores this year and see where the weak spots are, because if you guys remember, the RSD went to 100% charter school district in 2015, which means those kids are in 4th grade, and most of those schools started in kindergarten, which means those kids should be performing on grade if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And when you look at the growth scores, I strongly urge you in your calculus for growth scores that if a child has been in your school from kindergarten to 3rd and all of a sudden has a growth between 3rd and 4th grade, you're just catching up on your job. You're not growing that kid. You're just doing what you should have done the 3 years earlier.
Thank you.
I'd like to address her concerns and state that when you talk about where we are and we talk about a drop, you have to consider all of the information. Consider the fact that if you raise the bar, okay, and a C is now here as opposed to where it was, and you're still there, that means you grew. Now, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, you can't look at Orleans Parish in a vacuum. You have to compare it to others. Where do we compare? And as we stated earlier, we compare favorably to other states and other people that are going through the same transition that we are going through in this country. You cannot just look at Orleans Parish when the state is changing the curriculum, is changing the testing, and everything is moving to a higher standard. You have to weigh all of those facts. You just can't weigh one fact, pick one thing out, and just look at Orleans Parish. You have to make a comparison. I've been at this a very long time in saying that one of the things that we had to do was get away from just standardized testing and the test scores alone and began to judge the effectiveness of teachers based on growth. That if you take a student, I can't do my job based on what they did do or didn't do prior to that kid coming to me. But you need to evaluate what I do based on how I grow that student this year. We've been fighting that fight and asking for that for a very long time, and we are moving in the correct direction by including growth. You can only assess a teacher based on what they do, not what they were, based on what they presented with, not what others did prior to that.
Ms. Hankins,
So assessing the teacher.
Listen,
can I, Mr. Marshall, I just, in this
Thank
one
you.
moment, I just want to acknowledge that I think to Ms. Hankins' point, when it comes to performance, we are not performing at a place in space where all of our schools are doing what they need to do for all of our young people. And I think to not be offended by our performance would to say that we're okay with the system. We're not. And that's why we're continuing to do the work. That's why we're sitting up here. And I want to be clear, because I want to make sure that you're not making an excuse for the truth that we don't have.
No one's satisfied, Mr. Ashland.
That's right.
We
there's
work very hard every day. No one's satisfied.
I agree. So there's
We just
no
wanna
reason to
be
go back and
judged.
forth on this
We just
particular
wanna
matter.
One at a time,
We just
one
want
at
to
a
be
time.
judged appropriately, that's all.
Okay. I think your point is made about progress and so on. Ms. Hankins, would you like to respond quickly?
I would. So I've heard over time they moved the tests. But you knew in advance they were moving the tests. In every industry, it's about beating yesterday, not beating 5 years ago. Additionally, I didn't say the teacher, I said the school. I get that Ms. Jones did a yeoman's job because the two other teachers that kid had, but the school is given an extension. You gave an extension last year to a school, a 3 to 4 year extension to a school because of its growth scores, and that school had been a D for several years. That's just not right for that child. That child spent his entire career in a D school, and he got the growth for 1 year, and all of a sudden they get a 3 to 5 year extension. That's just not fair to those children. And I need you guys to have a sense of urgency, because kids spend their entire career in schools that are C, D, or lower. And we said we would do better in 2007 when we came back.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any other cards? No other cards? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries.
Next, item 5.10, extension for purchase agreement between Hano and OPSB for Armstrong Elementary. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board extend an option agreement with Hano for an additional 12 months, as Hano's development partner has demonstrated substantial progress.
Okay.
So moved.
We did get a motion?
Yes.
Okay, and a second? Okay.
And
Any
we have
cards
two
here?
comment cards. Jonathan Late, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, and following Mr. Late, Lona Hankins.
Good evening, Jonathan Light with Olympic Community Development, 1307 Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the board. In the past 11 months, we've been able to source about 75% of a $15 million project. As you know, this is an effort to create an anti-racism training center along with interpretive center that's going to combat institutional racism, as well as provide affordable housing for 25 seniors. On behalf of Ms. Leona Tate and the Tate Foundation, and obviously through the intermediary of Hano, we're just very appreciative. We can't get out of the gate without the board and OPSB providing site control. So to the board and also to the staff, thank you very much for your support, and happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Thank you.
Next, Ms. Hankins.
So I'm in support of extending this extension and putting this building back into the tax rolls, and so that we can start generating some taxes off of this building. And I need you guys to start moving forward with that unified master plan and that cyclical plan for maintenance, because I'm not sure when you're going to do your public hearings, but recognize that that public hearing process is very critical to New Orleans community. You have 33 buildings that do not meet, at least 33 buildings that do not meet ADA. And ADA is more than just ramps and elevators. ADA is indoor air quality. ADA, you may also have buildings that don't meet OSHA standards for noise. The air conditioning is so loud in some of those buildings that it doesn't meet OSHA standards. The buildings that don't meet ASHRAE standards for the amount of fresh air And if kids don't get fresh air, carbon dioxide, they can't learn. They're going to fall asleep. So you have a critical problem that you need to start addressing, and we need to understand, because I think that tax you're relying on ends pretty soon. And so if you're going to attempt to roll it over, the voters got to vote on it, and we got to know that you're doing something with our money. I'm not sure if you guys, based on the last month's rain and all the flack that the Sewage and Water Board has been getting about where the money go. Are you using the money? You're sitting on the money? What are you doing with the money? We need a plan. We need it now. We can't wait.
Thank you.
I'd like to address that. The RSD took over these buildings and had these buildings up until when?
We turned the buildings over last year.
When you say we, who's we?
The RSD turned the buildings over. I don't work for the RSD anymore.
Anymore.
That's right.
Okay,
I don't
so
work for the
all
RSD.
of those years, nothing.
So the buildings, so let's be real clear, right? You want to go there. You want to go there. There wasn't enough money to go around.
Can we maintain
Just-
order, please?
yeah.
And some decorum, please?
We appreciate your comments, Ms. Hankins. Thank
The
you.
question has been called.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries.
I just want to take a personal privilege for Ms. Tate to recognize her in the audience. I know she didn't stand and say anything, but I know this is your vision. Yes. So I just wanted to recognize her. This is a part of her vision for that area, and thank you for being a voice for the community and seeing this vision come to fruition, and that we could partner with you and your neighborhood. So thank you for being a neighborhood activist and making sure this dream is comes to pass. Thank you again.
Thank you, thank you. That concludes our action items, I believe. May I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second. And a second. All in favor? Aye. We move into executive session. Thank you. We have a motion to resume.
So moved.
We have a motion, a second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ashley? Mr. Brown? Ms. Ellison?
Here.
Mr. Cleveland? Mr. Koppel?
Present.
Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Ms. New Houston? Here. Also present is Dr. Henderson Lewis Jr. and Sharonda Williams, Board Counsel.
Okay, thank you. I yield to our board counsel.
The board convened an executive session to discuss item 6.1, prospective litigation regarding Village de l'Est Elementary School project closeout. It's recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approve settlement as recommended by board counsel.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
We have, I heard Mr. Marshall. Anyone else? Mr. Cleveland. Okay, we have 2 opposed. Okay.
Okay. Next, item 6.2, the board convened an executive session to discuss prospective litigation regarding Hines Construction Project settlement recommendation. It is recommended that the school board approve settlement as recommended by board counsel.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to
Second.
adjourn. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you.